Greetings and salutations, citizens of the internet, and welcome to another video tutorial. Now, in this one, we're going to be building a very simple real estate app, and it is going to be based off Django. I'm gonna be using the REST framework, and then on the front end, we're gonna be using the Google Maps API. And so, for this, first of all, I've thought it good for us to have like a basic understanding of what goes on behind the scenes so that we can have a better understanding of the application that we're going to build. So this obviously we're going to be using GeoDjango, which is um, typically used for building GIS web-based applications. So GIS web-based application, what does that mean? So if you've come across maybe an application like Global perhaps, and there are many more out there. You can, I think, if you go to Mapbox, they have those those applications outlined on their page. But for this, we are not even gonna scratch the surface because what we're gonna build is simply gonna be on. We're gonna only be utilizing a simple data type that is the point field. So first of all, there are some differences that we're going to see between the Django REST framework, and we're using the REST framework plus the element of GIS added on top of it. So the first one, of course, is the serializer class. If you're familiar with building APIs with Django REST framework, you'll notice that we use we inherit from the REST framework serializers, but when it comes to when you want to use DRF with GIS, that is like GeoDjango, we will have to inherit from another module that is the GeoFeature Model Serializer. Secondly, on this list we have apps. So in our install apps, we do not there's not it's not necessary to include to have the contrib the GIS package installed, but on our case with the GIS, we require a GIS module installed in our apps. So with DRF, we will notice that any database will do, so we can use the spatial light one that Django provides us with, or you can even use MySQL or Postgres without any extension. But with the Django REST framework plus the GIS, we are going to need a special database. So a special database, I say that lightly because we will be using Postgres, but we will be adding PostGIS on top of it to be able to handle and manage those spatial processes. And DRF, we normally serve JSON data, so or XML, of course, if you want, but usually we are used to only serving JSON data. But when it comes to DRF and JS, we will have also the ability to serve JSON. Yeah, so those are the few ones that I came up with on top of my head. And so right now, let's just look at a couple of libraries that we're going to be using. So the first one is the GEOS. So this is a library that will help us handle the point feature. Of course, in the future, if we're going to be using the line and the polygons, um, but it typically helps us to run those processes. So, for example, like if you're familiar with a software like QGIS, then if you maybe ran a process like buffering, right? Like let's say you've made like a 50-meter buffer, then what is running behind the scenes? That is GEOS at work, right? And secondly, we have the PROJ library. So PROJ typically handles the coordinate referencing transformations. So let's say you're working on again QQJS, because I think that's what like everyone it's an open source software. So if you've worked with that and you want to like make sure that your data is projected onto the right coordinate system, then you would use that. Again, this is something that is gonna be used behind. Well, it's not something that we're gonna interact with hands on, but it's something that's gonna like be used behind the scenes. So, for example, we're gonna be setting the SRID, which you're going to see, and that is the spatial reference ID using the EPSG code that has been provided by the OpenGIS consortium. So yeah, let me not get too nerdy about that. So let's continue. We have GDAL, lastly. So this is it's simply it's a data abstraction library. So used for reading and writing raster and vector spatial data formats. But again, like this is one of the core libraries that is required in order like to run GeoDjango, and this is what softwares like again QGIS, softwares like I think even ArcGIS and ArcMap, all those they use this at their core. So you can't really do anything without it. So for example, um, if you've dealt with something like with geometry or even raster data in the past, then 10 out of 10 times GDAL was like doing the data abstraction. So like if you click something and those nitty gritties that go into like doing all that, like it basically just abstracts data. Let me not complicate things, right? And so for the database, of course, you're going to be using PostgreSQL. And PostgreSQL, it's a well-known database, and for that, you can go ahead and install it from their website. It's not that large. I think it's around 300 megabytes, and you can have it installed. It's not a very hard process. And make sure that you install PostGIS extension. You enable the extension because we will be dealing with spatial data, and we want to have that capability of storing the spatial data. So make sure that you have that installed as well. Okay, so a bit of for another bit, because why not, right? So there's a difference between like a datum and a spheroid. And a spheroid, I'm just gonna read from this. It basically it's almost it's derived from a reference ellipsoid that assumes the curvature of the earth, right? And so it is ba- basically used for determining the shape and the size of the earth, because that shape of the earth, like it's not like a perfect sphere. So a sphere helps out with that. And a datum, what it does is that for instance, like Kenya, we have a datum called ARC 1960. That's the one that we use in surveying and other geodetic practices. But it's very instrumental in helping us come up with those mathematical operations, for us to carry out those mathematical operations. And yeah, so datum is more local. So yeah, so it's more localized to give us like the accurate, and then like a spheroid or a reference ellipsoid is like a global, right? And yeah, so this is how it looks. So for instance, with with the datum, the global datum, we can have an example like WGS84. If you've used GPS before, then that's what the GPS uses, WGS84. And on the right, we have a local datum, and an example of that is the NAD, I think 83 for the North American datum. And then for Kenya Tanzania and Uganda, we have, I'm not sure about Uganda, but I think Kenya and Tanzania, that I'm sure, we're using the ARC 1960 data. So datum. So yeah, that's it. I hope you've gotten a bit of the theoretical bit. So what we can do now is I can just like go ahead and close this slide. And there's something I wanted to show us before we continue. So I've mentioned like there are some special libraries that we need to use. So that is GEOS, GDAL, and PROJ. So a simple way of having those installed, you're going to need OSGeo. This is a library that helps us, or rather a software that helps us install those libraries, those geospatial libraries, because again, I cannot stress this even further, because you cannot work with GeoDjango unless you have those three libraries installed. And I think it's a very good step for me, like to guide you on how you can do that. So OSGeo, you can find it on the website. If you go to OSGeo, and yeah, you can just go ahead and get the installer and make sure that you have it. I've already installed it in my PC, so I'm using Windows. Actually, OSGeo stands for Open Source Geospatial Software for Windows, I think. And yeah, so I think if you're using Mac, you can use Homebrew. But let me just show you guys how you can. So after you've installed it, make sure that you have the ExpressWeb GIS extension ticked or checked. And after that, you're going to want to, let me just go to the Django documentation, language special libraries. So there's a script that you would want to run first. So this script right here, so you can just copy it, and then you're going to go into your command prompt. And then with this, you're going to want to open it as an to run it as an administrator, and you can just like paste it right there. Now, or let me just do it. There's no harm in me doing it twice. So let me just go ahead and copy this. And as you can see, for example, in my case, I have like this error right here. And if you happen to come across this error, don't worry, because what you can simply do, because it comes from the path, the system path. So what you can just go ahead and do is that you can go into your environment variables. Let's put it correctly. And oh, something's up. Okay, so here we go. So after you've run that command as an administrator, what you're going to want to do is that you're going to go into the path, and you're going to click on edit, and then you're going to go to where you've installed OSGeo. So mine is in local disk C, and then you're going to get in there, and then you're going to get into bin, and then you're going to copy that path. Then you're just gonna put it right here. You're gonna paste it, and then you can also like put it up here so that like it becomes easily accessible. So that should, if you follow that process, then you'd be all set to work with GeoDjango. And so before I end this video, let me just go ahead and start our project so that on the next tutorial we just like dive into it. So let me just open the PowerShell. Actually, let me just do this. I'm gonna do it on my desktop. So you can just open a new terminal from here. Nope. Open new terminal. So I'm gonna clear this out. And what I want to do first is I'm gonna make a directory. So do make dir, and I'm gonna call it PROJ property. And I'm gonna cd into it, and then I can start my virtual environment by running python hm then property, and like so. And so it's gonna take a minute. While that installs, I can show you guys how to create a project in Google Console, the Cloud Console. And so I already have a couple of projects, so, and I've reached, I think, my limit. So this project right here, this was the most recent one, and this is what it's gonna like be a dummy. So I can use like, okay, I can use this one. So okay, but basically what you want to do, of course, is create new project. Come here on new project. You're going to see that for me, I've reached like my maximum number of projects, but this is how you create one, right? So I'm gonna just click on cancel, and I think I can sort of, yeah, so yeah, citric program, I think that, so that's what I'm going to be using. So if you've done that, it's going to be very simple, and then you're going to want to enable the API, enable APIs, and you're going to want to select the maps JavaScript. So I'm going to click on enable APIs and services, and then I'm going to select maps JavaScript API. Then I'm going to click on enable. It will take a minute, but it shouldn't be long. Almost there. Yeah, so just a couple of things that you have to set. So just follow this step. I'm not gonna be using this, so I'm just gonna click on maybe later, because I'm gonna switch to the other one. But yeah, just follow that process. It's pretty straightforward. And then from you, for your API keys, you are going to go into navigation again, and then credentials, and then from here you can grab an API key. So it's that simple. Now, I think my virtual environment has already been started. I'm gonna get into it by running property script activate. I'm gonna clear this, and I'm gonna do a couple of installations. So we have pip install framework. So I live in a very loud neighborhood, but I hope it isn't too distracting. So pip install Django REST framework, and then we have CyclePG. That's going to be the network adapter for my for our database. And then uh, we have we have Django code headers. And then what else? So yeah, I think those are the ones. In case I miss something, I will just do it in the future. But yeah, so oh, of course. Oh, the Django REST framework GIS. So there's also that one. But I'll install it with you on the next video.